pack your stuff. It's time for a road trip. What's going on, everyone? Welcome to season 2 of the Road to Scale Nationals. In this bi-weekly series, Matt from the Scale Builders Guild and myself will be walking you guys through the journey we'll be taking as we prepare our vehicles and ourselves for the year's biggest scale event, or SORCA scale event. A little bit different, and we're going to cover all of that as we go. But let's jump into some background of what exactly we've got going on in this series. SORCA is a committee that puts together a rule set that defines vehicles into different classes and then outlines a rule set to allow you to compete with them. In these competitions, you have a certain amount of time to get through a set number of gates. And as you try to traverse that course in the allotted amount of time, there are certain penalties that you can incur along the way. The winner is the person with the lowest amount of points at the end. This year, the national event, the event that's agreed upon to be the one that crowns the national champion, is being held in Alabama. Now, all of the info for the event will be linked in the description below. However, the tickets for all 3 classes did sell out in just minutes this year. So there's not available tickets to go to compete, but if you wanted, you could always go and attend, watch, and there's an unlimited amount of terrain nearby that you could have all the fun you wanted with your trucks and then just, observe the competition, from the side. But as I mentioned, there are separate classes. There's class 1, class 2, and class 3. And the vehicles kind of step up as they go. Class 1 is more of a streetable type vehicle, smaller tires, 4.19 inches, the max size you can run in that. Class 2 steps up a little bit, 4.75 tires. The vehicle can get a little bit more aggressive, kind of a trail rig style. And then Class 3 is more unlimited. You have much fewer restrictions on there, but of course there is still rules that dictate what you can do in each of the 3 classes. As we get further into the series, we'll define what those rules are and get specific into portions of them each time. So we'll cover that more in depth later. As I mentioned, Matt from the Scale Builders Guild and myself will be competing in all 3 classes, and to do so, we need trucks that are prepared to do so. So this series is going to be following us along as we try and make that happen. Last year, I competed at Scale Nationals. I competed in Class 1 with a borrowed truck from James Sockrider, and then I competed in Class 2 with a truck that I had previously built, which is underneath of this body. And then I went to the Crawl Spaces event out in the Denver area, Rocas Rojo. And out there, I competed again in Class 1 with a borrowed truck. That time it was Chris from Team Garage Hack. Then Class 2, I ran this truck again, as well as in Class 3. In Class 3, I ran the truck exactly as I did in Class 2. I just took the opportunity to do a little bit more driving. The Class 2 truck would fit perfectly into Class 3, but you're just handicapped considerably based on some of the things that Class 3 allows. Now for 2022, one of my resolutions was to get back to fabrication. It's what I truly enjoy the most, and I want to kind of get away from just doing regular review type videos, get back to the things that I enjoy more than anything, and that is definitely building more than just following the kit instructions, something truly custom. And this feels like the perfect opportunity to do so. And with that, I also want to further my skills and dive into things that I've never tackled before. And with only 93 days from the date of this filming until the actual event, there's nothing like a deadline to force you to learn the hard way. With only 93 days left until this event, I need to try and set a goal, set a path, and really get moving down that path. And for Class 1, I have some lofty goals. I've been working on the design of a scratch-built body for months, or maybe up to a year, just slowly tinkering in CAD. And now it's finally time, I think, to dive into that. Here in front of you is the beginning of that. I designed this body 100% in Fusion 360, which is a 3D CAD design program. And What you see here is a 3D print of it. I've done several versions of this, just changing and working and continuing to move forward in the design. This is not the finished design yet, but it's along the path. Now, as you can see, it's 3D printed in multicolors and all that, but that's because this is only a prototype. In the end, the body that I put on this, my plan is to have 100% constructed from carbon fiber, not 3D printed at all. I'll be using 3D printing for certain parts of that process, but the finished body, that's not the goal. As the body sits currently, it really wouldn't be a good candidate for a 3D printed body. It's much thinner than would need to be. And that's just because that this is designed to be the width of the carbon fiber parts in the end. This is just purely so that I can see what it's going to look like and figure out what things I need to change or adopt and, make sure work as we continue. The final design of the body will actually be broken down into several parts, very similar to a real vehicle. The cowl area will be its own part, the hood will be separate, fenders separate, the sides will likely be one piece, but then the rear will be multiple pieces as well. So that will allow me to break the construction of this up into multiple different parts so that I can work on an area, hone a skill, move forward, maybe make it a little bit better the next time, so on and so forth. I'm not trying to make this as one complete perfect body all in the first shot. I think I have a plan that's going to work. We'll have to see as things progress though. Another benefit to breaking the body up into several portions is that if need be, I can just finish parts of it with a different method. If I ran out of time doing the carbon fiber in the front and I need to finish the back portion, I can simply vacuum form it out of styrene. I recently picked up all of the equipment needed to do vacuum forming, and I did a video on creating a custom hood for a rock buggy. You can go watch that and I'll link it in the description below as well. But if I need to, I can do that. I can get that done quickly, or if I need to do something even more quickly, I can just 3D print it. But not the goal. 100% carbon fiber is my goal, and hopefully I can get that executed. And while I don't plan to vacuum form the body, there are things that I do plan to vacuum form, specifically components on the inside here. For example, you can see that I've already got this vacuum form transmission tunnel in here. This was another piece that was 3D printed as a mold and then vacuum formed. I designed the mold for this in CAD, printed it out, then I used some clay to kind of give me draft angles and vacuum formed it. Now, this didn't come out perfectly. I got a sag here in the center where I didn't adequately support it from the backside, but I've made some changes. We're gonna redo this piece and we'll get into depth on things like that as this series goes. But I'm really excited to be able to make very custom and uniquely manufactured parts for a build like this in this series, and that's the things that I really want to get back to. Underneath of this body is a Vanquish VS410 chassis with a VFD transmission, and these are the F10 portal axles out of the brand new VS410 Phoenix portal. Those are the axles that I plan to run under this truck, and they should be a great fit. Ton of steering, great ground clearance, and since you have to run a 4.19 inch tire in Class 1, the extra clearance will be nice to have. Another thing that I want to do is get into some resin casting, specifically rubberized styles. And one of the reasons that I want to do that is things like these fender flares here. Now, fender flares can count as tire coverage, and that allows me to make the body a little narrower and then add these flares. But I can make them out of a flexible rubber even better. I don't want to just 3D print out of TPU. I want them to be a little bit different. I want them to have some more flex to them. Things that I want to explore. I've already obviously designed the flares. From there, I made some 3D printed molds like this, where I could then silicone cast an actual mold for it. This is my very first attempt at this and didn't come out perfect, but I know what I need to do to improve, and we're gonna do that in this series, and you guys can follow along with me as I try to learn how. I have this perfectly functioning Class 2 vehicle here underneath. Now, this is my Brazen Scale ATL chassis, and like I said, I used this at a few events last year, and it worked great for me. It needs some work though. The body that was on this previously was a Power Wagon body, and I actually got rid of that already because I picked up this carbon fiber body. This is a custom molded carbon fiber body, which measures more than 0.06 inches along all of the areas of this. So that should give me the hard body points that I'm looking for as well. And it's a really cool looking body, but that's another task that has to get done on here. I need to properly support it, and my scale points are basically non-existent on this vehicle right now. So there's a lot of work to be done just to get this thing to a competitive level on scale points. And again, we'll get into what scale points mean and how they're calculated and what counts and what doesn't later on in the series. Now, right now I've got SCX3 axles underneath of this, the straight axle version. It's got a VFD transmission with a bunch of overdrive in it. The axles also have more overdrive. I would like to change this one over to F10 portals as well. It's something to get done. It's another to-do item. And with how time is gonna have to be budgeted on this project, maybe that will happen, maybe it won't. But in addition to that, and with everything that we've talked about up to this point, for Class 3, again, what I plan to do is run this truck again in Class 3. However, unlike I did in Colorado at the Crawl Space event, my plan is to have a rear steering axle ready to go that I can simply swap into this. I'll have everything else ready to go. I'll have a pigtail for the steering servo. Everything will be prepped and just be able to remove the links and shocks, bolt the new links and shocks on, and have a capable Class 3 truck ready to roll using the same base. So haven't fully thought that through yet, and all of the hurdles that will, follow it as far as clearances and body trimming and what will need to be done. But that is what I'm going to do. Not having to build a completely separate new truck should help me save a considerable amount of time. Our plan for this series is new videos every other Wednesday. Not every week, because it gives us a little bit of time to get some things done and spend the time needed to get these in-depth projects rolling with something to actually update you on each week. My goal for each of the videos is to go through a technical how-to of something that I'm doing, whether it's the CAD design or the CNC machining, the carbon fiber molding or forged carbon molding. Same thing with the welding or brazing, metal fabrication. Then I've got vacuum forming, resin casting, just regular 3D printing. And I also plan to do a lot more driving practice and winching practice. Driving practice may seem a little funny, but what I mean is driving on the clock through a gated course. Even if I set the course myself, putting yourself under that pressure to get through a gated course in the allotted amount of time while not incurring too many penalties is something that is a good habit to push yourself and understand, so you're not under an amazing amount of pressure when you get there and you've got the jitters. I believe my first RC crawling comp was 16 years ago. So I've been competing in these same type of competitions for a long time. So I don't get the jitters too bad, but practice always helps. One thing that I don't have a ton of practice in that I plan to do more of is with winching. Obviously, if you're not aware, in SORCA type competitions, there is a lot of winching on very technical courses. My Class 2 truck here has a really powerful, really fast winch in it. And I need to get used to driving with that and understanding how it will affect the truck. Sometimes a winch that is too much can pull you off a line or take you by surprise, but having a fast winch also helps you get through areas quicker, so you have more time for the rest of the course. All things that take practice, and being more familiar with your truck never hurts. But that's going to outline the plan or the roadmap I have for the Road to Scale Nationals. Hopefully you guys are excited for this series. This is definitely the type of series that I enjoy the most and that I'm the most excited for, because it's the type of projects that I really want to get back to. And hopefully that rings true for some of you and things that you're looking to consume here on YouTube. With that, if it is, if you like this video, if you're looking forward to the videos ahead, make sure and hit the like button, subscribe if you're not already, and hit the notification bell so you see these videos as soon as they get uploaded. Every other Wednesday, be here. I got a lot to learn. Make sure and go check out Matt's video if you haven't already. And we'll see you in a couple of weeks.